I think the greatest thing that you can do is for them to know that Dad always made Mom priority. He made sure that she was honored and that we honored her, and just the way he cares and watches after her is something that gives security and safety to a family that allows them to thrive.
Welcome to the Step Up Podcast, where our goal is to help you step up as a man in every area of your life. I'm your host, Dave Kinney, and I'm joined by my pastor, Pastor Chris Kouba. PC, here's what I love. What I love is we got a lot of advice as we were talking to people about starting a podcast, and we were told after you get a handful of episodes in, you're going to realize that you're running out of things to say. Mm-hmm. What's been really fun, I wish that we could just keep the mics on and record, because I don't feel like that at all. I feel like we're just scratching the surface on some of the things that we're wanting to talk about. Yeah. We have a shared note of all the different kind of topics that we want to address in the podcast.
Keeps getting added to constantly.
Super fun. And it's really great because you're an early riser. We've established that. And so I'll see edits to that note at 3 a.m. or whenever it is that you wake up. But it has been a ton of fun. It's a great thing. We've also gotten a lot of good feedback.
It's been really positive,
all that kind of stuff. It's been a blast. So for all of our listeners, we just want to thank you for listening and sharing and reposting our podcast and all that kind of stuff. But
help us, get the word out, share it with people, because there's these creepy algorithms and stuff like that, and we want to make sure the creepy algorithms work in our favor. And from what I've been told, you have to play the game a little bit to make all the creepy things work.
That's right. So
follow you.
Step up by reposting and reviewing and all that kind of stuff. We appreciate it. All of our listeners. We're very thankful. So
how you holding up?
My knee from the Murph?
Well, no. Well, you did? Oh,
I did the Murph yesterday.
Okay.
You did the Murph on Friday?
I did the Murph last week, yes.
Yeah, so how are you holding up?
Today's the first day that I don't feel very sore.
Oh, yeah. I feel fine. I could do it again tomorrow. No problem.
That's not true.
It's not true. No, I have a knee problem. And I've never had a knee problem. But
you also had a home full of people last night, didn't you?
We did, yeah. It was my son's 9th birthday, which was awesome.
I saw pictures.
Kids over, and
Emily posted some stuff. She is a Pinterest mom to the nth degree.
I don't know what Pinterest is, but she's a planner. She gets after. I know it does something. It gives you ideas for stuff, but I don't. No, I'm not in the game.
Let's just be clear. Any man on listening to this podcast, you don't need to have a Pinterest account, nor do you need to know probably what Pinterest is. But I do. I've got 2 daughters. I've got a wife that's super into this. I've got a sister that's she's also a Pinterest mom. And then Emily is a Pinterest mom. What that means is she either probably got inspiration from Pinterest, or she should be posting what she does, because she is
she's amazing.
She can put on it's incredible what she does. She needs to be posting that so that other people can be inspired.
Yeah, she on Monday night, she was building a balloon arch for our 9-year-old's birthday party, and she built this massive, elaborate balloon arch in 15 minutes.
Yeah,
it was remarkable.
I've come home once from an event late at night, and in my house is Emily, his wife, who's building a balloon arch for a party that we were hosting the next day. So
that's what she does. So it was awesome. She did a really, really great job, and she's themed out.
She's a super mom. She really is.
So great. She lives for a party, and she makes it a big deal. And my kids are lucky to have her, because if it was me, I'd be like, you guys want to order pizza or something? So she does awesome. But we had all these people over at our house celebrating Watts' birthday, and Coco and Cap. So my kids' grandparents, Emily's parents, Coco and Cap, they come in and they steal the show. They're the greatest gift givers that I know.
They are.
I mean, they're amazing. They steal the show because they gift my son Heelys.
Really? Those are
Do you know what Heelys are?
They're back?
They're back. I mean, they are back. And so my son gets there. It's the shoes with the rollerblade wheel in the heel. And fun story, Emily and I actually went to college with the inventor of Heelys' son.
Really?
So Emily was like, we're going to message him and be like, these things are still doing great. He's going to start a trend at the church. We have a lot of concrete floors here at United City. Okay. And so during worship, he'll just be wheeling on down.
Which will doing into construction, so that'll be a fun little addition to our construction. Yeah.
But he went nuts. I mean, it was
that's so cool. Did he want them? I guess was he asking for them?
I don't know if he was asking for them, but he loved them. As soon as he got them, he was so excited. It was really cool. What's the greatest gift that you've ever received?
I'd have to go with categories. Okay, so From a spiritual standpoint, I'm a pastor. Let's go with that, right? I have a really cool thing right over my standing desk in my office that basically the place I study at. I can't even remember what the context was or what the setting was that I received this, but I have handwritten sermon notes from Charles Spurgeon. And it's got a picture of him, and then it's these, like he's got like, he underlines it in red, and then he highlights some things, and
these are preaching, from Spurgeon.
Allegedly, yes, but I'm
recording.
going with
Yes,
it. I'm
they
going
are
with
from
it.
Spurgeon.
Yes, yes. Everything I can tell, yes. It's just super cool because it's basically what he would bring up to the pulpit when he would preach.
Yeah,
so that's probably
awesome.
how I would answer, sort of like a professional, one of the best professional gifts I've ever received. My dad a few years ago got into experiences with sports, which just both of those two things are just great for me. So we went to the Texas OU Red River rivalry. I went to Baylor. I've got no connection whatsoever to either one of those schools, but it's at the State Fair. It's just the most amazing setting ever. And then you throw on top of that just the fact that it's 50-yard line and they're all the way around half and half. And that was just an amazing experience by itself, just to be able to go to that game. But he also took us to a Army-Navy football game.
That's
in
incredible.
Baltimore, Maryland. We got there about 3 hours prior to the game starting, which there's like all the pageantry and all the stuff. It was as cool as the actual event in and of itself. Watched the game. It was the first time that Army had beaten Navy in like 13 years. They stormed the field. And so we looked around and no one was like stopping anybody. So me and my brother and my brother-in-law, we jumped over the fence and we stormed the field too. I've got pictures of me with some random Army guy on the field. It was just an incredible experience, everything about it. One of the coldest environments I've ever been in my life.
Yeah, I bet.
Because it's always played, kind of by itself, late December. And that was an incredible experience. That was another great gift. But I would probably say, going back again to an experience, the very first time Baylor, which it feels like it's about to be a very long time before this could potentially be the case again. But when they won their very first Big 12 championship in football at Floyd Casey Stadium, it was one of the last games ever played in Floyd Casey. Someone gave me tickets to go to that game on the 50-yard line. It was incredible seats, and it was one of the most memorable because of how cold, memorable because of how awesome the win was, but also just memorable because I was at Baylor during the really, 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 really bad years.
Yep.
And so to be able to see that kind of come full circle, it was just still one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had, one of the best gifts I've ever received.
Okay, so talk about gifts that you've given, because there's a difference between
I want to hear from you, though.
joy.
What about you? What are some of the best gifts you've ever received?
Oh, man. Well, my birthday was 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And Emily,
Yes.
the world's best, she got me this hat that I'm wearing right now.
Melon hat.
And
you've talked about this for a long time.
dude, I've been researching
time.
this hat for
Going back
years.
to the decision episode,
Oh my goodness.
Took a while.
There's
to
so
make
many
those.
guys in our church that I've texted that I know own these hats. And I've just asked, like, do they stand up? Are they great? And they've been telling me for years to just pull the trigger and do it.
Yes.
But they're more expensive than normal hats, and I'm really cheap.
Quite a
so
bit, yes.
my wife, she went and she spoiled me and got me this hat, and I love it.
You've worn it every day
it.
since.
I've worn it a lot, and it's going to be a problem at some point. But I love this hat. I love experiential things.
Yeah.
I'm not a big concert guy, but Emily, a couple years ago, she got me concert tickets to a group called Need to Breathe, and they're really great.
Yep.
The concert itself was so unbelievably fun.
That's cool.
I'm not even like a music guy or a concert guy, but we just had a good time. It was a date night, and it was an absolute blast. Now, I will say this. I am really good at giving gifts.
Okay.
Like, I think it's more fun for me to give like a nice, crazy, cool gift than it is for me to receive a gift. And that's not me over spiritualizing anything, by the way. I just love it. Like, I love really thinking through what to give Emily. Like, I did a shopping spree for her. So I gave her like a gift card or something like that. And then got her a hotel room all by herself, away from the kids.
Really nice hotel.
A nice hotel. And got her like a massage while she was there, just to like get away, have a little fun, and just kind of be by herself.
Yeah, we were
she wasn't even upset that I wasn't coming on it, which was a little offensive.
Yeah.
I thought she would have maybe been like, no, you should come with me, but she wasn't like that.
No, we all
She
heard
was,
about it. Like,
you can-
look
you
what
can
Dave
leave.
did kind of deal. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I know. I'm really competitive with it, and y'all all need to step up in your gift giving.
Yeah, yeah. I gave Hillary a pretty cool gift for her 40th birthday. She went away with a bunch of girls and got to go experience that. But also got a lot of different people to write notes to her. And there's this service that basically puts it all together in this really cool presentation box and things like that. That was a pretty cool gift. I was pretty proud of that, just because it was around the time whenever we had just transitioned here, and I mean, just kind of that type of stuff. And so it represented a lot of different seasons of her life, which was really cool. I would also say I bought Hillary a Suburban, which was a big deal, which sounds like a whatever, no big deal. But like, you don't understand.
No, that sounds like a big deal.
She'd been doing minivans for a few years, and which took sort of she was submitting. She did not love that experience whatsoever. And so the fact that I was able to get her that car just sort of represented that that season of her life was now past, and that she could just enjoy that. And I remember that was just a massive, massive deal. Like, she talked about that for a very, very long time.
Yeah, more so it's a gift, obviously, because of the vehicle, but it's more so a gift of being like, hey, we're
past that stage.
Now you're no longer minivan mom.
Yes, exactly. You're the hottest minivan mom ever, but now you're able to be next stage. One of the coolest gifts we ever pulled off, though, was Thanksgiving. We actually had all the kids. This is when we lived in Dallas, and we actually drove down here to Houston with my parents and family. And then we surprised the kids with a scavenger hunt, and we were leaving the next day to go on a Disney cruise for a week, which was just pretty cool.
That's amazing.
And Disney cruise is just top level. I mean, it's just amazing, incredible. I can't more highly recommend it. But the way we pulled off the surprise element was pretty epic.
Okay, so do you think if Hillary was here, would she say that you're a good gift giver?
No, we are terrible gift givers towards each other. We don't, my anniversary is coming up, and neither one of us have thought about it, and we won't think about. We're both terrible at it. I don't know if it's that I'm just really bad and that she just realized that I'm not going to be any good at it, so she doesn't want to show me up every year, or if it's just that I think we actually both aren't really super great at it.
Yeah.
But so no, she would. I mean, we're last minute, and we want to go on big. We want to do more experiences. Neither one of us are great at gifts.
Yeah. Okay, well, I want to take this idea though, because no matter where you're at in your marriage, you are gifting your spouse something.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I know that this is kind of a unique pivot, but what would you say as for the husbands that are listening who are leading their homes or trying to lead their homes, taking their next steps in leading their homes? What is the greatest gift that they can give to their wife? What's the greatest way that they can exemplify?
Let's stop real quick.
It's to their kids.
Yeah, to their kids.
Yeah.
So just start over and say the exact same thing you did, just to the kids, and that way, otherwise the whole thing will be shifted.
Okay, so I want to take this concept and just kind of make it a little bit more serious. You love giving gifts to your kids, all that kind of stuff. As parents, we love spoiling our kids, but make it more serious. What is as for the husbands and for the men who are trying to step up in their leadership in the home, and as dads, as husbands, and all that kind of stuff, what do you believe that the greatest gift that a man can give to his kids would be? Yeah,
well, let's think through this, because there's a lot of good options that I think are also good things to answer that question with. But I've got one I think is greater than all of them. But I mean, think about this: your presence. So it's just there's something to be said about just kind of being there at the games, being around whenever they're doing stuff, and them just being able to see you on the sidelines and not acting like an idiot. Unfortunately, that's the new thing you have to add today, because a lot of guys are there and they're just making fools of themselves. I think encouragement through your words. So, I've coached my kids a lot and have been their coach. And so I've had to figure out to make sure that I'm not always the coach, though. Sometimes I just need to be the dad who's just like, hey, you did awesome today. Man, you did great. You did a really good job. So I think your words have great power. Obviously, you need to provide. I mean, if a man doesn't provide, then he doesn't eat, and he, it's worse than an unbeliever if he doesn't provide for his family, is what the word says. I think you need to be a provider, whatever that looks like, and whatever that needs to be for you. We've kind of mentioned a few that we've at least done, and I know you've got the same experience. But great vacations and stuff like that are a great gift that you can give your kids. Just memorable things that they'll never forget, and places that they would never go, and just kind of having fun and stuff like that, I think is a great gift that you can give them. Obviously, putting them in the right school, giving them the right tutoring, all the different helps and things like that. I would argue, though, the greatest gift that you can give your kids that will not only impact them when they're kids, but I think will also impact them for the rest of their lives, is to love their mom.
Yeah.
And you usually don't think about this. You usually think about, okay, how do I be a great parent? How do I be a great husband? And I would tell you, you are being a great parent by being a good husband.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bible's super clear, right? I mean, Genesis chapter 2 says that a man shall leave his father and mother and be united to his wife. The two shall become one flesh. That's when the family unit was established. And I think it's important that we see that when kids come along, they are an invited guest to an already established family.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever you get the order mixed up, whenever you begin to make it kind of kid-centric and kid-focused, which, I mean, look, we get it. I mean, you had the 9-year-old birthday party last night. I mean, you guys were all in. I mean, you were making sure you had to leave at a certain time because you had to get home, and I'm sure you had a list of things. We get it. We're going to do a lot of things for our kids, but our kids, there's security, I think there's safety, and I also think there's a blessing for them to know that the relationship between mom and dad is safe, secure, and is nurtured.
Yeah.
And it just does something that I think is going to set them up better than if you were the best dad but not a good husband. I think it doesn't have to be either or. I think instead, if you're going to err on one side, be the best husband that you can be, and it will lead naturally to you becoming an even better dad, because God established the family unit so that your kids are there for a little while. They're meant to be raised up and they're meant to be sent out. The Bible says that like arrows in the hands of a warrior are the children of one's youth, meaning you are meant to be getting them ready, and then you're meant to release them and get them. And you want to make sure you've got somebody that you're with that you can enjoy to be with. Like Hillary and I, we love our kids. We're in that stage now where we can kind of sort of see the finish line a little bit. It's a little ways off still, but we love our kids. We love the relationship we have with our kids, but we also really love it when they are gone.
Yeah. Yep.
And to be together, because I think it makes us love the family time even more. But we know that we are looking forward to that time. We're going to have a relationship together where it's not just all about the kids. Now, don't get me wrong. We talk about the kids nonstop and its schedules and whatever else. And we share calendars, and it's insane the amount of events we've got just on the kids stuff alone. But there is something to be said about the fact that I really want to be with her. She really wants to be with me, and the kids can come along.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. It's been fun getting some feedback for the podcast and all that kind of stuff, and it seems like we have listeners that are both in my season of parenting, where kids are younger and they're very much at home, and you're caretaking and nurturing and doing all of those things. But we also have another group of people whose kids are a little bit older. Maybe they're in high school or empty nesters or college, whatever it may be. Speak to those in my age group really quick. When in my season of life, how can I take that truth of the greatest gift that I can give to my kids would be to love their mom really well? How can I do that better?
Yeah, well, I think a couple things. One, model it, right? So let's just talk through this. I mean, Hillary and I have had a date. We have date night or date every week, right? It's been right now it's on Fridays, and we got to lunch. Where our kids are at the age where even if we had to leave them at home, we could. For the longest time, though, it wasn't. We had to do it on Thursday nights, and we would put the kids down, feed them early, and then put them down, and then we would have dinner at night, but we would talk about it a lot. It's like the kids would know this is what mom and dad are doing. So it was just sort of this concept that like, oh, mom and dad's date.
And you would do that on purpose. You would talk about that in front of your kids for a reason.
And because it was cheaper.
Yeah.
Let's be clear.
Very much.
At your stage of life, whatever else, hiring a babysitter, doing whatever else,
Cheap
it's like,
wins.
oh my gosh, this is insane. I can't afford to do all of this. And so we just instead would just schedule it to where it was like, but we would talk about it. Hey, we're going to feed you guys dinner. Mom and dad are about to go. We're having a date night tonight, and we're going to be there. And sometimes it wouldn't be super fancy. It would just be eating whatever they had, but on our own, just with the two of us. Or maybe it was doing something else where we were, watching a show, whatever it may be. But I think there was still just this intentionality to where, one, we both knew that was the case. But I think also at that stage, you're kind of in a survival stage. I mean, it's crazy and just schedules and whatever else. And it may not always work for the same night every week just because of practice schedules and whatever. I get all that. I think there still needs to be this time, though, where literally the kids know mom and dad have sacred time that we don't get invited to, that they are looking forward to.
Right.
I think so. Yes, talk it up. I think another thing I would talk to you about is like I talked up whenever I was your kids your age. we used to talk up all the time just how awesome her mom is. I tell my girls this all the time. Hey, if you're going to do anything in the future, you want to be like your mom. And just speak well of her, speak well about her, talk good things, as opposed to just complaining and frustrated and whatever else. And it just kind of begins this whole thing.
Okay, well, there seems to be something within culture now, and it may not be new at all. I may just be noticing it more, that like the old ball and chain
Sure.
mindset.
Whatever version of that, yes.
Yeah, and I think all of us have probably experienced that to some degree with our parents or our upbringing or whatever that may be. Why is it so important to neglect that mindset and pick up the mindset of honoring and speaking well of your spouse?
Well, one, it's commanded. I mean, the scriptures are pretty clear that this is something that your responsibility is to treat them honor them as the weaker vessel, 1 Peter chapter 3. And I mean, the scripture speaks about the fact that you are to use words that build up and that give life. But I think also in the home relationship, like, you know, I know that as my kids get older, their tendency to perhaps pick up on what I've done is highlighted more, right? So like they're going to love the things I love.
Right.
They're going to say the things I say. They're going to, I mean, they kind of are little mini me's in some sense.
They're imitators.
I want them to make sure that they're also imitating, this is how we're going to treat your mom.
Yeah.
Because she's my wife. Not just because she's your mom, because she's my wife. Like,
Yeah.
You're not allowed to talk to her that way. You're not allowed to treat her that way. You're not allowed to speak to her that way. I think going back to why I think it's one of the greatest gifts that you can give your kids is to love their mom. Because think about it. My kids now are at the age where they're going to be dating and they're thinking through that kind of stuff. Well, they're going to be modeling that based upon how did dad treat mom? Mm-hmm. You know, I want my girls to know, well, I know how it looks like I'm supposed to be treated because I watched it.
Right.
Not just that I went through a course in a class and not the youth pastor did a series once and talked about it. That's all great. And hopefully that can be supplemental. But I think the greatest things I want to give to my girls is that they know, oh no, I know what to look for. I know how the guy's supposed to act because I watched dad do it, is what I hope. And the same thing for my boys. I want my boys to know this is how we treat women because this is how they've seen me treat the woman in the house.
Yeah.
And we're going to honor her and we're going to speak well of her. So at your stage, I think it's important. You're just in some sense maybe coaching yourself while also teaching them. But I just think it's important that you honor and speak well of, because one, the scriptures command it, but I think also two, just because it's also going to turn your heart to realize, and I mean, your wife's awesome. You're lucky. Like the
most lucky.
I mean, I'm like, in some sense, my kids need to know you got a really good mom.
Right.
Like, you got an amazing mother. And so it's very easy for me to all of a sudden begin to focus, goes back to the 70-30 principle. I can live in that 30% and think about all the things I don't have, or I can sit here and just try to honor the fact that, no, you've got an amazing mom. And I want to just let words be spoken life out of me, not only to her, but to others, and especially to your kids.
Can I share a really cool win that we had related to this recently?
Yeah.
So I have two sons and then a daughter. My two sons, they wanted to give Emily a gift. And they decided, it was truly them that decided this, that they wanted to take her on a date.
Nice.
Which I thought was awesome. I mean, how cool and cute is that?
Yeah.
They're 9 and 5 years old. And so they wanted to take her on a date. My 5-year-old was very adamant about opening the doors for her. I literally gave my credit card to my 9-year-old because they wanted to pay for it when the bill came.
Sure, yeah.
Which was a big step.
Yeah.
I mean, I was terrified. I was like making sure I was checking bank activity as they were on their date, being like, I hope he didn't lose it and someone's just stealing from us. But it was really, really sweet because they took it on themselves to dress a little nicer than they normally dress, get the doors for mom, get the bill, and make sure that they were spoiling their mom.
Yep.
Now, I'm not here to brag on myself in any way, but like you said, I'm kind of in that training and doing it for myself thing, knowing there's kids watching me, and it really dramatically affects what I do. Like, I have a goal whenever I'm around. I don't ever want Emily to open up a door. Like, I just don't want that to be the case. And now I've got these two boys that are capable of opening doors for their mom, who, by the way, first and foremost, is my wife.
Sure,
and showing that honor is such an important thing, I think, for them to understand and lean into.
There is a parenting part of this, But again, like I said before, I think you can actually parent well when you do marriage best.
Right.
And so I think if you're going to like focus on that, like make sure that your marriage is vitally important. I mean, we talked about it, before, but I think it's worth even bringing up again. Ephesians chapter 5, one of the best passages of all about marriage. It says that you are to treat the woman in such a way where you are honoring her, sanctifying her by the washing of the word. You're supposed to make sure that you put her needs before your own. But it says that you do this because ultimately your marriage is a picture of the gospel. Mm-hmm. So think about this. If I want my kids to know Jesus, if I want my kids to have a relationship with the Lord, best thing that I need to do is to teach them the gospel. And I need to, of course, teach them the gospel by telling them what the gospel is and then leading them towards church so they can hear the gospel. But I also want to model it. And what the Bible says is how a husband treats his wife models the relationship between Christ and the church. It models the gospel. This thing that's taking place in my home is something that is actually, it's called a mystery, is what it says in Ephesians chapter 5. It's something way deeper going on than just the surface, way deeper than just the benefits that we get to enjoy. And so what I want my kids, I want the gospel to be implanted in their hearts. And I believe one of the greatest ways that you can do that is by making sure that you love their mom, like that they know, like, oh, I don't know a lot, but I know this. Dad's into mom.
Yeah.
Like he's in. So you kind of ask, what are some other ways that you can do this? I mean, I think one, be affectionate with your wife around your kids. I mean, that sounds weird and whatever else. On the other hand, I think there's something to that. I remember my dad growing up, he would leave notes for my mom around the house. That's kind of, for a time, I thought it was weird and cheesy and whatever else. Look back, that's a baller move.
Well, and
like that,
think about this right now. That's a memory that
absolutely.
You have. And now, as a guy who's older with kids that are older and all that kind of stuff, you're still learning from that decision that your dad made decades ago.
Totally. So, I mean, just think through this then. I guess, what does your marriage reflect to your kids about the relationship between Christ and the church, right? They see your fights. They see the tension when that's in the house. They know when like revenge is the goal. There's no question there's times whenever I've fumbled this big time and I've not done what I'm supposed to do and all of that, and I've had to go and repent. I've had to go and confess. I've had to go and make it right even with my own kids. But I think that there's something that's so important because your kids are always watching. Mm-hmm. And they are watching how you respond, how you treat, how you speak of behind her back, but also to her with your spouse. And I just think that one of the greatest gifts that you can give your kids, while it's good to be at their games, while it's good to be around, while it is good to take them on trips and vacations, and it's good to have memorable experiences like we talked about even a couple episodes ago, I think the greatest thing that you can do is for them to know that dad always made mom a priority.
Yeah.
Like he really was into her, and he made sure that she was honored and that we honored her. And just the way he cares and watches after her is something that gives security and safety to a family that allows them to thrive.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think it's also important to note that this, of course, does impact your kids. This is a parenting thing, but you got to guard your own heart and make sure you're not being disingenuous as you pursue your wife.
For sure.
And so I think, one, if there's tension in your marriage or something like that, you guys are in a stressful season of life, doing this, you need to work yourself into the understanding that this is worth fighting for.
For sure.
This is worth pursuing. This is worth the dropping of pride and the raising up of humility so I can pursue my wife because God has commanded me to do that. And even when you're in those stressful seasons, maybe even all the more when you're in those stressful seasons.
Especially, sure. You and I have both been to re-engage with our spouses and our wives. You're not above doing that. I think we did it in order to help improve our marriages, not necessarily because there was a crisis per se. I think whatever investments that you can make in your relationship with it bothers me whenever I see families spend so much time, so much money, so much travel, so much stuff with all the things related to their kids, but they're not investing in the core relationship. And you just kind of want to say, look, it's awesome. It's great, the family memories and whatever else. But man, what you need most is making sure that mom loves dad and dad loves mom, and that is secure because the kids can see it.
Yeah.
They can feel it. They know. So men, my encouragement to you would be take your wife on a date. Like that's your action step. Go get your wife, go on a date and try to figure out a rhythm that is the case. Brag about your wife to your kids. Make sure they know and talk about it. Honor her in every single way. Wait for her to arrive whenever you get to the kitchen table. That's what we do now with our boys.
That's really good.
They have to wait to sit down until mom shows up, right?
Yep.
Kind of a deal. Or they're you can get away with a lot. You can't get away with talking back to mom though. I mean, it's just kind of one of those types of things. So just what are those rhythms and things that you can put in place no matter what stage that you may find yourself to where you are modeling for your children the safety and security that comes with investing in mom.
That's really good. That's really good. PC, thank you for doing all of that. Let me ask you this, just as we're kind of wrapping up and closing here. You and Hillary have a great marriage. You guys have been married 20 years.
22 years
22
this
years
week.
This week. Congratulations.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Thanks.
I want to ask this more personally.
Mm-hmm.
How have you seen this impact your own heart as it relates to your marriage?
Well, there's just no question that even at times when you are having to do this because you're trying to be a good parent and say the right things and do whatever else, man, my heart has followed the lead. I just love her, man. I just really do. I mean, I would rather be with her than anybody else. I'd rather be around her than anybody else. I'd rather spend time with her than anybody else. And I think that is just, when you cultivate something deep, there's just nothing else that you would rather do. And so those habits and things that we did when we were at y'all's stage, man, they're bearing just crazy fruit because we're on some crazy parenting stuff. We're talking about colleges nonstop, and we're talking about, just jobs. Almost all of our kids, except for one of them, has a summer job. I mean, it's just crazy. We're about to have another driver in our house, just some of those types of things. But man, we are getting to experience this and enjoy this together, and it's just really sweet. So even the big, crazy, expensive things of life that are coming for you and others are great. And I look back at my parents, and I kind of see the grandparent stage and what they're doing, and the fact that my parents are together, and they still date each other, and they still take trips together and whatever else. And I look at that and I'm like, man, I want that.
Right.
Like I don't want to get to the spot where I see so many folks get to that stage and then kind of blow it up,
fall apart.
And you're just like, what are you doing?
Yep.
What are you doing? This is the fruit, right?
Yep.
And so, if early on you're having to train yourself and tell yourself something, I promise you it's going to be worth it, because eventually your heart will also follow what you're doing, and it'll be well worth it.
That's really good. Well, hey, the credibility of this episode comes from two guys who very much outkicked their coverage regard to marriage. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back soon. Do us a favor and like, subscribe, and share this episode to help us get the word out. We would love to hear from you, so please leave us a comment and even leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. For additional information or to reach out directly, please visit chriskouba.com. That's chriskouba.com. You can follow Pastor Chris on social media and just search Chris Kouba, Kouba. You can also follow United City Church on all socials at United City Church. That's UNTD City Church. Thanks so much.